I guess you would call me a mushroom medicine woman and also a minister of mushroom. Minister of the mushroom. So I have lived all over North and South America studying basically plant and fungal medicine, as well as indigenous cultures and the kind of ancient traditional ritual of plant and fungal medicine. Now I am based in Alaska. I moved here for a bunch of reasons. This is the second time I've lived here. This time I brought my family up here. There are a lot of birch trees up here. And because I make mushroom medicine, I work with a lot of polypores that grow on the birch trees. Birch, polypore, tinder conch, reishi, there's a lot of different ones. And I also work with the amanita mushroom. So that grows in abundance up here. And because it's so clean, the environment really lends to a pristine amanita mushroom. So that is kind of the fungal reason for coming to live up here with my family. We do a lot of foraging in the fall and winter. And then I'm also a mushroom steward of the sacred blue mushroom, the one that is magical, the one that many of you probably are microdosing with now. And that is making huge waves in the even mainstream media right now. So yes, I hold a space for that mushroom to proliferate, and I make medicine with that mushroom as well. So that's a little bit about me. Right next to me is a piece of art done by the illustrious Mariela de la Paz. And if you are able to get your hands on a copy of Double Blind Psychedelic Magazine, this coming issue, it comes out twice a year, and her art is going to be on the cover of that. Yes, Mariella lives in Sebastopol, so we all have a piece of Mariella. But yeah, she has some indigenous art on the cover of Double Blind Psychedelic, run by women entrepreneurs. It comes out twice a year, so check that out if you can. Double Blind Magazine. And yeah, Lucibel.
Thank you, Gabi. I am Lucibel Nunez, and I am a mom, a wife, a health coach, a microdosing coach, a fitness instructor. I have a couple other things under my belt, but mainly I like gathering lots of information, lots of certifications, so that I can bring it all into microdosing coaching and just helping clients grow and have personal transformations. I have been microdosing for about 4 years now and helping others in their microdosing journeys for about 2 years. My ancestral lineages, my husband, let's hope he's not an ancestor. My father is from Nayarit, Mexico. My mother is from the United States, but I guess has really deep Scandinavian roots. So I have, on my dad's side, it's both very mixed, very Spaniard. My grandpa was very Spaniard looking. My grandma is pure indigenous. And so I have both I have lots of colonizing blood, but also some really deep Mexican indigenous roots. And so I feel really called to working with plants, to working with the mushrooms. And yeah, that is me. That is I, Lucibel.
And Lucy, we should tell about how we met. So Lucibel and I used to be neighbors, and I came to her fitness class through a mutual friend, Lucy, another Lucy. So I started working out with Lucibel. She helped me a lot on my fitness journey, and obviously we connected over the mushroom, and we've basically like grown together with the mushroom medicine, kind of like introducing each other to different concepts, people, like just kind of like sharing, like a sisterhood almost, that kind of came from the mushroom. I feel like the mushrooms brought us together, really. But
Well, they literally did.
yeah,
Lucy, whose husband passed, had some of Gabi's capsules and was like, Lucibel, I want you to have these capsules. They were my husband's. And at first I didn't know how to take it. I was like, okay, sure, I'll take them. And then she was like, but I really want you to meet the person who makes them. And again, I was like, okay, totally. And she was like, she lives right by you. And I was like, oh, sweet, that's awesome. And so she introduced me and then it's been magic ever since. So thank you, Lucy.
also, if you take a microdose capsule and then you get onto the Zoom for Lucibel's fitness class, synergy, all right, that will light a little workout fire under your butt and get you in shape, which is very psychedelic as well, being fit. So
lately I've been microdosing on the Amanita and then teaching booty, and it's like booty at a whole new level. So booty is BUTI yoga, booty yoga, and it's a combination of dance, plyometrics, and yoga. But as the instructor, I have to improvise the entire class. I don't know what's coming next until half a second before I do it. And Amanita just helps me get in the zone, but we'll cover Amanita in a little bit. So Gabi, the next thing I wanted to do is let's cover what drew us to the medicine.
okay, I've been taking mushrooms for a long time, so I feel like probably many lifetimes, but in this lifetime, I started a pretty deep journey into wanting to be in altered states of consciousness since I was very young, like probably 11, 12 years old. I had a lot of like trauma in my household, so I was like finding these escapes, and a lot of it was through like tobacco, drinking, and then like some harder things came into the mix, a lot of pot. And eventually I did come across mushrooms, but didn't begin to really use them therapeutically until I was about 29 years old. I had run a business in the seafood industry, which was like kind of like a family lineage. And I burnt myself out, and I just like was like, I need mushrooms. I don't know. So I like got some mushrooms. I like took them, and I quit. I closed the business. I moved to the West Coast. I came to Alaska. I stayed with my brother for a little while, and I went on like a pretty deep psychedelic journey that lasted for a few years. I ended up taking like ayahuasca, iboga, or ibogaine, worked for an ibogaine clinic. I tried a lot of different plant medicines and found myself in a lot of different ways, and also studied some healing arts like Jin Shin Jitsu. I was looking for anything to just try to like heal, and mushrooms was the medicine or the sacred fungus that really told me that my spirituality was important. Like I remember the trip, I had taken some psilocybe azarescens up in Portland, and I was like, money is bullshit, God is real, the typical awakening. I'm not saying my awakening is like anyone else's. We're all, unique, but I really felt that connection. And from there, I just like took mushrooms consistently ever since. And I still do microdose very often. A few times a year, I'll go on a deeper journey, like sometimes pretty deep journey. But when I do that, I do it in a very sacred space, and I take a lot of time in between journeys so that I don't get too far from being grounded, because I am very sensitive to the mushrooms. So in that journey, I was able to leave behind a lot of toxic patterns, and not just with the substances, but with just like the way that I reacted to my emotions, the way that I held resentment towards my family, towards other people, being a loner, and just a lot of things. So the mushroom has really helped me like find myself, come into myself, and now help others. And that's really been the goal the whole time, is just to like connect with other people and try to be of service on this planet. So the mushroom has been like a huge tool for me in all of that growth. So yeah, I'm very grateful for it. And that's kind of a little bit of my story. So, and Lucibel, what is your story?
Okay, so I had just weaned my youngest son, and it was so interesting because throughout both kids, I was just so zapped. We have no family in the area. It's just me and my husband. So being a brand new mom and figuring life out with absolutely no help was really, really grinding on my nervous system. So my oldest was about 5 by the time that my youngest, and I just felt like a zombie. I was watching every single TV show. Like I was watching all the seasons. I knew when the next one would come online. Like I was just a zombie. And then I was scrolling through social media, and I was part of this mom group, and someone asked like, hey, I need help with some sort of natural antidepressant. And I would never categorize myself as depressed, but for some reason I was drawn to see what the natural suggestions were going to be. And one person suggested microdosing, and I was like, what is that? For some reason, I was like viscerally drawn to it. And so I reached out to her privately. I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, taking small doses of psychedelics. And I was like, what? Why? And she was like, well, and she couldn't tell me why. It was just something that she had heard about. So she sent me this article, and I started reading the article, and I wasn't even processing it all at once. I just knew that I needed that. And so at the time, I had my youngest sister was still a teenager. She was still in high school. And I was like, hey, I'm going to need you to get me some mushrooms. And she called me mama. She's like, mama, why? And I was like, don't worry about it. Give me some mushrooms. And so she's like, okay. So I have no idea what I took. But then I made her let me borrow her like weed grinder. And so I ground them up and everything, not even thinking that I could just do it in the blender. And I just started microdosing, and it was like a light switch was turned on. It was like I was starting to find myself and who I was. And I wasn't just this mom, because I I had a group fitness studio for many years. And so I was like right in the middle of having my group fitness studio. I was like super overstimulated, but I felt this like depth start to wake up in me. And I started listening to books. I think I listened to like 5 or 6 books that first month. It was like Lucibel came online. It was pretty incredible. And so as I was microdosing, I simultaneously started practicing quantum QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique. And in those sessions, I get a chance to converse with the part of a person who is completely encompassed in love, completely removed of emotion, loving, calm, courageous, curious. And it was always so astonishing for me to have a conversation with that part of a person, because I could have known someone for years, but this part was very different. It was absolutely incredible. And I realized that and I was always thinking like, how can I connect? Like I could see that we each had that part in us. Because I had done numerous sessions on people already. And I was like, how can I connect with that part of myself? Because I couldn't find a practitioner in the area and for a while to get my own session. And I was like, how do I connect with that part of myself? And I realized that the mushrooms were helping me connect with that part of myself. This part of me that was just so curious, so calm, so courageous. So it really turned me into the observer of my life. And I started to realize like just how much a part I was to the chaos that was happening in my life. And so that was a really hard pill to swallow, and just realizing just how responsible I was of the chaos that was happening around me. So I started to kind of dissect one part at a time, and really start to address it. But that's kind of how my relationship with the mushroom started. Is I worked on things on myself, on my household for a few years, for 2 years, really, because, I was a mess. I was an internal mess. And, I still am, but it's just a little more organized.
Yeah, the
And
mushrooms are amazing for organization, both the red and the blue. So yeah, I was a mess too, Lucibel. Like my outer world was definitely reflecting my inner world. And now I'm like, I mean, things get crazy, but I'm like so much more organized now. So that is another huge plus of the mushrooms.
yeah. And something that I say very often, so for those of you who know me, you may have this multiple times, but the mushrooms really helped me see how I was part of the problem and how I was part of the solution, and how easy it is to get stuck in beating yourself up about how you're part of the problem. So we can talk more about integration and stuff later, but it has this really interesting way of just presenting you with, this is how you're part of the problem, but if you go this way, this is how you can be part of the solution. And so it really took some time not to get so stuck in that seeing how I was part of the problem. But it was super helpful. It was super helpful. So worked on myself and still do. I still analyze everything about myself every single day. So that part has never ended. But what has shifted now is helping others going through their own microdosing journey, and then also holding space for groups to do it together. Yeah. So Gabi, what are some important things, and you can add the science behind it too. I'll cover Amanita if you want to cover the sacred blue.
Sure. Well, you may want to add in some things of your own for the blue, but the science of the blue, I guess it's the main mechanism is that the psilocybin mushrooms expand neural networks in your brain and in your body. And the ancients took them to actually like prepare their bodies for self-healing. So once they were in a mushroomed state, they would be able to self-heal. And I really feel connected with that piece of wisdom, because when we heal ourselves, and the mushroom is a vehicle, it's a tool to kind of like get you to a place where you can heal and begin to heal. And when the body heals, that's when the emotions heal, and that's when the spirit heals. And all these things I've learned from the mushroom itself, but also from other people who have worked with the mushroom for many years. There's so much material that I would love to introduce to you guys and people. So just like, I think maybe I can add some books and some names into the chat at the end, but also if you want to like stay connected with me, I talk about ancient mushroom religions and just ancient practices, and kind of put people in contact with names and people that are experts through my microdosing chat group. So you can message me, get in touch with Lucibel, and we can kind of like get you connected into this network, because we do these Zooms and bring people in that are experts in their field as well. So yeah, the mushrooms, they expand neural networks. And when I make a mushroom medicine with a sacred blue mushroom, I do a lot of combining mushrooms. Like we're talking about microdosing today. So when I create microdose blends, honeys, capsules, tinctures, I use a synergy. One of them, for example, would be using lion's mane with the sacred blue mushroom. The lion's mane will coat the myelin sheathing and heal the myelin sheathing, while the blue mushroom is growing neural networks. So something else would be like the reishi mushroom has an anti-inflammatory effect, but so does the blue mushroom. So when they work together, they're very powerful. And the microdosing blends that I make are, I believe you don't need as much of the medicinal mushrooms like cordyceps, lion's mane, all the polypores, because the blue mushroom is like a catalyst. It kind of like opens you, you're ready to receive the medicine. And when I say the medicine, that's like anything that's going on. It's like the medicine of what's going on in your life, the medicine that your kids are giving you, you know, the medicine, and medicine doesn't always taste sweet and delicious, you know? So that's kind of one reason why, or just one way to say, the reasoning behind like kind of taking breaks with the mushroom and staying in like grounded with it, like, you know, taking it, but then like giving yourself time to reflect and replenish. One of the blends that I've been working with more recently contains shilajit, and that is it's a mineral from mountain peaks. It's very nourishing and detoxifying at the same time. So I've been loving that synergy with the blue mushroom because it's very replenishing. There's other blends that help with like hormonal stuff, some that are like very gentle, some that are more profoundly, like more of a deeper connection with the mushroom. All the microdosing is like designed for microdosing. It's not gonna, you know, unless you take a lot of it. Like if you take one capsule, it should get you to a pretty consistently steady place that isn't, you can feel it, but you're not like on a journey. At a certain point, you go on a journey. But so another important thing to know about dosing is when you dose with the sacred blue mushroom, when you take your dose for the day, let's say, you would want to get to know the mushroom and what it does to you. So some people are very sensitive to the mushroom and they just need a little bit, and some people need more. And there's a lot of different reasons for that. And some are like more physical reasons, like you might be taking other medications, you might drink alcohol. These things could numb you or make you more sensitive to the mushroom, depending on your chemistry. Everybody has a unique chemistry. So when you want to get onto your microdosing journey, you're going to want to get to know the mushroom, so that what it does to you. So you take that one capsule or that one scoop of honey and you see what that does to you. You sit with that, whether it's like putting expectations on it would be futile. Like you just feel that. And then you say, okay, next time I know I'm going to take 2 because like, I want to feel it like this much next time. So that's kind of a personal journey with it. But if you're trying to take many doses, like over the course of a day, it's hard to get like higher and higher, if you will. You kind of need to take your dose at once. I'm not saying I don't do it. I do. Sometimes I take some in the morning and I take some in the evening. But when I want to go deeper, I take it at once. And when it comes down to like the honeys versus the capsules, I believe that the capsules will give you a much crisper like mushroom journey or mushroom microdose journey, whereas the honeys, a lot of them contain non-psychoactive cannabis oil in it, and it's very high in cannabidiolic acids, but that produces a synergy with the mushroom and the honey itself that is like a much more calming effect. I like to take it more like in the evening, or if I like want to sleep, but still take that sacred medicinal mushroom. It kind of is like a more soothing effect. So let's see, there's so much to talk about. And at the end, I would love to open it up for people to like ask questions. Maybe you have like a personal thing going on with your mushrooms that and your journey that you want to know about. So we can definitely do that. But yeah, people, it doesn't just go by like weight and height. Or, you know, I've had like giant dude does a lot of drugs or whatever, and he took like one microdose and he's like crying. Like that guy, he probably needed to like release something. So if you have something like right there, you know, and it's like it needs to come out, you might just take one capsule and it will do it. You know, that will be what you need to like push you over the edge. But they are a tool. They're not going to solve your problems. You know, if anything, they're going to make you more sensitive to your problems, but hopefully push you to the point where you're like what Lucibel said before, like, now I can see what I've been doing and what I can do to change. And it starts to take away these kind of misconceptions that like we can be in control all the time. And, you know, it's everybody else's fault or like whatever it is. We all have toxic patterns. So when you take the mushroom, your brain lights up like a child and you get this more objective perspective on your life and on your issues. And it can be really, really helpful for problem solving. So that's a little bit to say about the blue mushroom. The red mushroom has been an amazing healer, and Lucibel will tell you more about that, but I use them in synergy as well. So I've done a lot of experimenting this year with Amanita and the blue, and at first I was keeping them very separate. Now I am doing some mixing, but like all of this, like I go slow and I check it out. Like, what does this do to me? What does it do on an empty stomach? What does it do when I take it at night? What does it do? So you are your own scientist, and you are your own minister, and you are, it's the mushroom is giving you that reconnection to your intuition, but that's you, it's you. So it can open up a lot, and people can remember things when they take these mushrooms that were blocked for a long time. And just being able to tap into that and to allow yourself to kind of like sit with those thoughts that come up and those emotions that come up that have been suppressed, like, is a powerful medicine. So here's a little bit.
I'm like, thank you, Gabi. Thank you. All right, so I will cover the Amanita muscaria. I actually have some little cute earrings with Amanita that a friend made for me. So the two main components, so it has four components. It has ibotenic acid, muscimol, muscazone, and muscarine. And the Amanita muscaria is the red mushroom with the white dots that you see a lot in fairy tales and stories of the past. And it grows everywhere. A lot of us here are in Sonoma County. You can find them under oaks. You can find them out walking. They're very, very beautiful. They are the most concentrated when they are in a bell shape. So not when they're all the way open or even then flipped up. You really want to get them when they're in that bell or like halfway up. So the effects of the compounds, the ibotenic acid, the muscimol, the muscazone, and the muscarine, the effects of these compounds are very similar to the actions and effects of naturally produced neurotransmitters. So what's a neurotransmitter? It's a chemical messenger that your body can't function without. Their job is to carry chemical signals, aka messages, from one neuron to the next target cell. Target cells can be another nerve cell, a muscle, or a gland. The two main components, the ones that are the strongest, is the ibotenic acid and the muscimol. When you pick the Amanita and you have it more in its raw form, it's higher in ibotenic acid. But as you, Gabi, what's the name, like the decarb process? What's that called?
Decarboxylation.
Decarboxylation. I always have a hard time with that word. When you take it through decarboxylation, which is essentially dehydration, right?
Dehydration,
Gabi?
and heating. There's different ways to decarboxylate it.
That's right. So the most common is to dehydrate it. If you dehydrate it at a lower temperature, it'll maintain some of its ibotenic acid. But as you take it through that process, the ibotenic acid gets converted into muscimol. And so structurally, ibotenic acid, muscimol, and muscazone are structurally isozazols. I'm so sorry I'm mispronouncing these names, but they're really, really important functions of the body. So an isozazole is a 5-membered heterocycle compound having nitrogen and oxygen in the ring. Because of their excellent chemotherapeutic properties, isozazoles occupy a dominant position in the pharmaceutical industry in the development of antibacterial, antifungal, antiviral, tubercular, anti-cancer, anti-inflammatory, analgesic, anti-diabetic, anti-parasitic, anti-obesitic, anti-neuropathic, anti-oxidative. You get it. Lots and lots of benefits. So ibotenic acid resembles the major stimulatory brain neurotransmitter called glutamate acid, which is also known as glutamate. Glutamate is the major workhorse neurotransmitter to the brain. It increases brain function and mental activity. It also detoxes the brain from ammonia and helps the transportation of potassium across the blood-brain barrier. Glutamate is also involved in the learning and memory and much, much more. A lot of this information that I'm getting is from the book Microdosing with Amanita Muscaria by Baba Masha. Thanks, Gabby, for letting me know.
We should add that one into the chat at the end for you guys. It's a great book with lots of anecdotes apart from the scientific stuff, just like so.
Tons. Okay, so that's ibotanic acid. So again, that is high when the mushroom is close to its raw form or if it's been processed at a really, really low temperature. Mescamol, which is what ibotanic acid converts into, is a specific agonist of GABA receptors and also resembles GABA, which is gamma aminobutyric acid. GABA plays a role in the healthy functioning of the body's immune and endocrine system, regulation of appetite, metabolism, relaxation, pain relief, stress and anxiety, lower blood pressure, improves sleep, balances mood, alleviates pain, and it's also a major contributor to the body's homeostasis. There's actually a lot more to GABA, but those are just the basics. And it also contributes to gut health. When glutamate is combined with GABA, it plays a really important role in regulating muscle tone as well. So the other two components to Amanita are really, really small, but they still exist. But that is the scientific breakdown of the Amanita muscaria. Gabby, did you want to add anything to the Amanita?
Sure. You just did an amazing job talking about the science. I commend you. I can tell you really put your heart and soul into that. And I know that it's super important for you as a fitness instructor and as a microdosing coach to like understand the mechanisms. So I really appreciate that. I learned from that as well.
Well, something that's really important is, everybody talks about neuroplasticity when they talk about microdosing. And I think it's really, really important to understand the science behind microdosing because you can come to it with a bigger intent. And we all know how powerful intent is. And so when you start to learn the scientific processes that these medicines take in our body, it's almost like you have the ability to maximize them. So for example, in neuroplasticity, it's like the mushrooms come in like the flame that you hold up to wax. So imagine your brain and your nervous system as wax. The mushrooms come in as that heat source and really have the ability to warm up that wax. But you have the ability to then mold it, right? So it's like this beautiful relationship that you all have together. And it's important to really know what's happening so that, again, you can maximize the process.
So yeah, I guess like one thing I would add to what you were talking about is like as sort of like relation between the red and the blue. Sometimes like the red can be a little bit overwhelming. Like we're just learning about the blue and there's like so much stigma around the red still that people are like, what is this? I thought it was poisonous, and there are poisonous mushrooms in the Amanita family that will kill you if you eat them. So I do not recommend you foraging for them unless you absolutely 110% know what you're doing. And I also don't recommend you picking anything off the side of the road or anywhere where there might be contamination. When I do my batches, I pick large amounts of Amanita and I blend them together because there are different indoles and chemicals in these mushrooms that Lucibel was talking about, like probably the 5 most common, but we want to get like a more average blend. So if you don't know what you're doing, please don't do it unless you are with an expert or you just talk to somebody, get books. Like, you really need to do your research. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. I don't want anyone to get hurt. Okay. Apart from
Thank
that,
you.
yeah, what the ibotenic acid and the muscimol can do, like with the flame to the wax, like as the blue mushroom grows neural networks, my understanding is that the amanita can sever neural pathways that are related to trauma and pain. So, and sickness. So where you're like growing with the blue mushroom, with the red mushroom, you can like cut and sort of like cauterize old things. So when you're using them together in different ways, you can sort of reframe what you've been through and where you're going. It is amazingly powerful. I've had a lot of people, and myself included, that when we started taking the amanita, there was some disappointment. Like, this doesn't do anything. Like when you take the blue mushroom, it's so obvious. Like you take it and you're like, oh my gosh, whoa. Like you have these realizations and the world is more colorful and you feel better, or you feel more, or you feel compassion, where before it was just aggravation. With the red, it's like you take it and you're like, what's going on? I thought I was supposed to feel something. Like, put your preconceptions aside. The red is a super potent spiritual mushroom that is very subtle, and give it patience and time, because what it does, you'll notice it, but you have to be open to it. And
and let me reiterate just how subtle it is. It is so subtle, yet so powerful. Gabi and I have like sat on the phone for a long time, many times, like, how do we even put it into words? Like, it's so subtle, yet you notice it in your actions. Like you were saying, it helps sever and cauterize connections to trauma. It doesn't get rid of it. It's like, instead of walking around with an open bleeding wound, bleeding on everyone that you come in contact with, you have the ability to turn it into a scar. Like, I'm never going to forget how I got this scar, but it's no longer open and bleeding and at risk of infection.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
And it has such a good, such a powerful ability to help us set boundaries. So anyway, I wanted to add just how subtle it was, because you mentioned the subtlety.
Yeah, and like on the subject of boundaries, like where you're going into like new realms and like opening with the blue mushroom, the red is like it's very much about boundaries. And I've noticed, like, when I take it, especially like in the beginning, like so many things just came to light, and like they may have made me like a bit like, when anything comes to light that like comes into the light, it's like it's coming in and it's like, so there can be moments where you're like, whoa, but all for the better. Like, I found the lump in my throat when I took the amanita, but I'm not afraid of it. I went to get it checked out. Like, I did a lot of my own research, figured out like what I want to do, but it was literally like one of the first times I took amanita, I was like, okay, that's been there for a while, and I was like, wow. And then I could like relate all these things back to it. Another thing was like, just like with just situations like in the home that like needed to be dealt with, and we were dealing with them in a certain way, and it's just like, I was just like, you know what, I'm taking a different approach now. Like, I'm going to do this and just like see what happens, and I'm going to put like a little more effort and just like leave behind my kind of like pride or whatever it is, and just like get the job done and just see. And like, I've had some great like breakthroughs and understanding like in my home, and they say that the amanita is very related to the ancestors, and I really feel that our ancestors are here now too. It's like our old selves. It's like people in our home, in our families, and our friends, and like our communities. And it's like all these spirits of people and plants and fungi, all of our ancestors. And I really do feel like a connectivity to that like ancient wisdom when I take the amanita. And I think that it can really show you like how to fix things in your life. It's such a master organizer. Oh my gosh. Like if you're having issues with your home, I think the Amanita is really powerful medicine. It's not really the psychedelic. I'd say it's like it's different. They call it dissociative, but that's kind of misleading also. Plus, when you're talking with the blue, I do a lot of combining ingredients. But with the red, I focus more on the decarboxylation process, converting ibotenic acid on one side of the spectrum to muscimol. So I take like dried mushroom during the day. It's really good for ADHD. It's really good for ADD. It's good for organizing your mind, organizing your environment. And then as it gets later in the day, if I'm sick, I'm putting my Amanita honey in my tea. I am going to drink a lot of Amanita, and I'm going to just like chill out and let it help me heal. It is so healing. I haven't gotten sick. I've been around sick people, this, that. I'm not afraid. Like I'm taking my Amanita and my blue. I'm good. And, everyone has their own ways. So I'm not trying to push that on anyone, whatever you need to do. But for me, it works well. Another thing with when I'm converting it more to muscimol, and I do that I use an intuitive process, like beyond drying it, where I'm like taking capsules, that's ibotenic acid. I'm getting into like the honey. I feel that decarboxylates it once it's added to honey. And then I also make a tincture, which is like quadruple. It's pretty much fully decarboxylated because I've made it into a tea. So I've taken the dried mushroom, I've cooked it into a tea.
Yeah, I just want to add really quickly, the tincture is very different to the capsules too that you make. Right. Though they feel very different.
Right, because it's gone through multiple decarboxylation processes. So the ibotenic acid's been cut out 4 times. It's pretty much all muscimol at that point. So you got the tea, and then I add alcohol, that decarboxylates it. And then I add lemon, or I add usnea, my most latest concoction. I used an usnea tincture instead, which is high in vitamin C. So I'm making a product at the end that has very high in muscimol, and that's good for sleeping. And you can put it on you. Like my partner, he's like, I don't want to take it. I'm like, come on, you need this. Let's do it. And he's like, no, but he lets me put it on him. And it's super healing just to put it on you. If you don't want to take it into your body, it's okay. You can put it on your heart. You can put it on your temples, your wrists. You can, if your husband doesn't, or your wife doesn't want to take it in, maybe they'll put some there, and it can be healing too. So,
well, kind of like you had the experience of finding that lump. Yeah. I had a very similar experience, and that kind of ties into Jean's question. Jean says, I understand they can help emotional and spiritual growth and development, but what about physical illness? And she understands that some of the physical illness can be tied to emotions, but what do we know about that? And that there'll be a lot of anecdotal experiences in that book, Microdosing Amanita Muscaria by Baba Masha. There's tons of them in there. You can read a lot of healing stories, physical healing. But so Gabi had the experience with her lump. I had an experience where I started microdosing on Amanita, and I think I was like 1 week in of microdosing every day. And I had been experiencing these bloating issues since when I turned 35. I just started to get really bloated, and I couldn't figure out why. I mean, I work out, 4, 5, 6 times a week sometimes, really intense workouts. I eat really well. And I'm like, what is going on? I'm carrying this extra weight around the middle. And a week in, I got this very clear voice, and we'll talk about the mushroom voice that happens when you start microdosing. But Amanita was like, it's the honey. It's the honey that you're putting in your tea. And I was like, what? And for the last decade plus, I've been having this big old tea in the morning with a bunch of honey, Earl Grey, honey, and some sort of non-dairy milk that's my favorite thing to have in the morning. And Amanita was like, it's the honey. And I was like, no. And so I started having my tea in the morning with no honey, super boring, but the bloating went away. And I was like, okay. And it was a very clear message from the Amanita, and we'll talk about more about the mushroom voice, because it's from them, but it was very much, it's the honey, get rid of the honey. Made me very sad, but I did it and it worked. So that was kind of, Gabi had the lump, I had the bloating that was addressed through the Amanita.
Yeah, and a lot of stories in that book. The book is awesome. It just came out this year. It's endorsed by James Fadiman, and Baba Masha is a researcher and a doctor in Russia. She did like all of these basically like studies. She put a call out to the community to tell her, like, are you taking Makhammer? That's what they call it in Russian. It's Makhammer. And people came to her and shared their information about their experiences. And it was like, it's just so cool. It's just all anecdotes and graphs of like how many people had healing on a physical level, how many people. So if you really want to know about the Amanita, like statistics, that's pretty much the best thing out there that I can find. There's a lot of books about fly agaric, Amanita. There's so many. You can just like start Googling it and look. There's a huge amount of ties of Amanita to Christianity. I mean, there is so much evidence that it was a look, it's all theories. I don't want to get too much into it because we all have our own like preferences and things that we relate to more. But there is a lot of information and writing out there about the Amanita. It's got so much history in shamanism. They take it up here in Alaska. I'm praying that I find like an indigenous Amanita shaman. I haven't yet, but I know they're out there. I've seen some videos of the peninsula, like the most far eastern peninsula of Russia, and some mushroom shamanism, Amanita shamanism from that area. After a while, you know, you probably don't need the mushroom anymore to reach these states. That's basically like at the end, she, you know, this shaman came out and she's like, I don't need it. She was like 90 years old, like doing backflips. She's, I don't need anything. Like, this is just me. So, but a lot of them were still taking the mushroom and singing songs and retaining songs that their ancestors sang about the mushroom and that the mushroom taught them to sing. And when I harvest my Amanita, I am always singing. I sing in the forest, and there's a few different reasons why I do that. First of all, there's moose and bears in the fall. So I'm out there, I bring a gun. Usually I'm with my partner, my husband, but I like him to carry the gun. But if I go by myself, I bring it. And I sing to the mushrooms. I sing to the forest. I say, thank you. I sing at the top of my lungs, and songs come to me, and I sing the same songs when I go out. It's like my mushroom song. And I tell Amber, she's the queen of the forest, and I thank her for all the healing. And I thank the king of the forest, that's the bolete, because they grow together, the Amanita and the bolete. And we harvest boletes as well, and we eat them. The porcini mushroom, they're amazing. We make spice blends out of them. So when I harvest, I tap the caps. I only pick like the most perfect mushrooms, and I will take like more closed caps as well as flat caps. Once they're upturned, I might drink a little bit of the water because it's full of ibotenic acid, but I leave that there. And I get a variation of things from different areas, and I bring them all together. I do not buy, as much as I want to support the Ukraine, I do not buy mushrooms from the Ukraine. Like, Chernobyl is in the Ukraine. They have radioactive stuff. I mean, I don't know, like, they absorb, the Amanita absorbs everything. So you just need to be super careful. Don't pick roadside Amanita. Just be careful. All right. And you will. I know you will. Everyone is like, no, I'm not going to go there. I don't know. So yes, that is a cautious attitude, is a good attitude.
Thanks,
but,
Gabi.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, sorry.
No, there's so much to tell. Like, I feel like we could just go on forever, but I love that. One thing I love about the Amanita muscaria is that like everybody's got a picture of it in their house somewhere.
Yeah.
Even the most square, person has got somewhere in some book, they have an Amanita in their house. It's so insidious. It's just like, it's such a powerful fungal spirit, and it's so earthly. Like, it's just such a human type of mushroom. It's not illegal. You can't get rid of it, it's just there. And Etsy keeps trying to like shut people down. They don't let you sell it on there, probably for the best. I would be really careful buying mushrooms of any kind from people you don't know. Just be cautious.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. It was really cool hosting Amanita Dreamer earlier this year, because she's also someone who puts out a tremendous amount of free content about the Amanita. And Amanita saved her life. She literally she had her whole suicide plan set. And she was going to commit suicide because she was on benzodiazepine, tried to get off, and getting off was just a nightmare. And so she heard the siren call. It took her into the forest. She found the Amanita. She ate some of the Amanita, and it completely took the pain away that she was suffering from. And so she has a background in chemistry, and she was like, I'm going to study this. And she has put together some really, really cool information too. So the ceremony was interesting, to say the least. But, you know, in this work, it's important not to put anyone on a pedestal, because you put someone on a pedestal and you're bound to get disappointed. And so remembering that people are really good at what they're good at, and that's it. And she is really, really, really good at putting out amazing content. So, but Gabi, you mentioned James Fadiman, which it kind of perfectly segues into the next section of what is a microdose. So I'm going to give you guys my version of a microdose. Gabi's going to give you her version of a microdose, and just know that it is really, it's really up to you and what works for your body. So James Fadiman has this. It is James Fadiman that has the microdosing protocol, right?
Oh, he's one of them for sure.
Yeah. Well, I think it was him
Very
that
well known.
specifically. Yeah, he puts together this protocol of anywhere between a microdose is 0.1 to 0.3 grams of whatever you're taking. Well, let's do psilocybin, because you can take more of the Amanita. 0.1 to 0.3 grams of psilocybin. So I've been able to buy these little spoons on Amazon for my microdosers that are 1/8 of a teaspoon. And 1/8 of a teaspoon normally measures out to about 0.14 grams. And so it's also, every protocol is different. The one I have people starting off at is once every 3 days. You can do once every 3 days. You can do 4 days on, 3 days off. You can do 5 days on, 2 days off. You can do every day for a certain amount of time. But a micro dose is anywhere between 0.1 to 0.3 grams, which again, you're pretty safe with a 1/8 teaspoon. Gabi, I'll go ahead and add to that if you want to.
I definitely have clients or, parishioners that they need a lot to feel it for whatever reason. They might just be like, just not that sensitive to it, or they drink alcohol, or they're on benzodiazepines, or for whatever reason, they need to take like 0.5 or more, sometimes a gram. If I take a gram, I need to lay down, and like, I'm having basically like a small trip. So it varies a lot. And so that's what I try to tell people. Like, you really need to like get to know the mushroom and like what it does for you. Also, certain mushrooms are stronger than other ones. Like if we're talking about the blue mushrooms, there's a whole, let's call it like a variety called penis envy. Those are typically stronger. If a mushroom grows and opens its cap and sporulates, it's going to be less strong than a mushroom that, was harvested when it was still like a bulb or smaller. Like a series of small aborted mushrooms can be like very, very strong. So there's a lot of variation. It's good to like know your supplier so that you can like understand what went into the mushrooms, like what it was like in the strain. And, certain strains are like more visual, certain strains are more this, more that. Some people say, I can't tell the difference. It's all the same. So it's a very personal thing. And when it comes to microdosing, like for me, I think of it, it's a good, like the capsules that I work with, they pretty much is one capsule is a microdose. And I have it in levels. It's like level 1 is like, you can't really feel it. It's subperceptual. Some people are going to feel it, but they're not really going to feel it much. That's about that's less than 0.1. That's like, we're going like 0.07 realm. Typical microdose, I would call like level 2. That's like about 0.12 to 0.15. We get up to level 3, we're in like a more connective dose where you're at like about 0.2, 0.18 to 0.21. And then you're like above level 3, you're more in like a 0.4 range, and that's kind of like a little bit different. It's just something else, and those ones, like they're typically like created to be more true to the mushroom. Like there's not much else going on in the capsule besides psilocybin, basically. Or it's just pure psilocybin, maybe different strains mixed together. But at that point, you're taking it for kind of a different reason. But some people need to take like one of those strong ones with like a more medicinal one. They put them together. That's a microdose for them. Everybody is different. It doesn't just go on weight. It does. Like a larger person is going to usually require a bit more. Like if you have a real petite person, then they probably don't require as much. But some people are just, some people, there just doesn't seem to be a rhyme or reason to it. So it's a personal journey. And a microdose is like a dose where you can feel it, but you're not like impaired to the point where you can't go about your day, really. I would call that a microdose. Like a microdose is like you're feeling more creative, you're seeing the world with a different perspective, but you can still like make lunch and have a conversation and, even like do what you need to do. If you're taking microdoses for the first time, I'm not going to recommend that you do all your bills that day. I'd say like, go for a hike, spend some time journaling or like talk with an old friend. You might want to go within your personal things, spend some time with your animals, maybe have just like some time to just sit there and just sit. So, if you're microdosing, like maybe you're using it for like a therapeutic thing, maybe you have some kind of sickness that you're working with and you are going to be taking it every day. I wouldn't say it's going to impair you to the point where you can't get your life done. You can still get it done. Another thing that affects microdosing that I've noticed is that if people have like underlying illness, like MS or Parkinson's, sometimes they require a lot more. And it's very, very soothing for them. But they do require more. So I want to like break the stigma of like, feeling like, oh, I'm, this is a lot. I have to take more than someone else. Like, what's wrong with me? No, there's no stigma. Or, I need it every day. Maybe you're depressed and you really need it. There's been times in my life when I've taken it every single day for a long time. But that day comes eventually when I'm like, I don't want it. And I take some time off. It's a personal choice. Like that's the whole point of this for me, is to like come back to ourselves and empower our intuitions again, and like reconnect to trust. Like all this gaslighting and all this crap that so many outside forces have put on us to make us not believe in ourselves anymore. Like the mushroom is going to help you eradicate that and just come back to your true nature. So the dosing and stuff, like we can give you tips and tricks, and there are for sure. And there's protocol that can be very helpful. But if you feel like you need more or you need less, you don't need to feel bad or like there's something different about you. It's not like that. It's a personal thing. So.
Well, something that I wanted to reiterate, a couple things that you brought up. First of all, when we were talking about ancestors and mushrooms, I got this like way earlier. I got this vision of like the mushrooms have decomposed our ancestors. They've been around for way longer than us. They have actually broken down our family. So I don't know. It was kind of a deep thing that hit me when you were talking earlier. But something that I want to reiterate, a lot of people, and I'm sure they go to you with the same thing, but a lot of people I've worked with, when I started working with them and the idea of microdosing, it's almost like they've been like me, like viscerally called to microdosing, but still have this fear of what it's going to feel like. Are they going to be high? And I think that that's why we are focusing on microdosing, because micro is it's very small. And so it's just enough to kind of start warming up that wax and allowing you to learn how to move it and how to shape it in not such a big blast of heat, right? It's almost like you have to be very ready to mold the brain with a big blast of heat. So we're just going to start with a little bit of heat and start shaping piece by piece, right? And so a microdose is very mild. And again, if you stay within a small amount, you are fully functional. You are fully functional. You can do all of your duties during the day and pay your bills one day. But Gabi makes a really good point. When it's your first microdose, when you're first starting out, you do want to give yourself some leeway, some space to really explore. But my personal experience is that I'm fully functional. I have to be fully functional in order to run a household. And so I am. And microdosing allows me to better observe my role as the matriarch of my home and see where I need to, improve, where I'm doing a good job, where I'm doing a terrible job, and so forth. And so being fully functional on a microdose is something that I have observed in myself and many people that I've worked with, just wanting to address that fear. Gabi, you also talked about the strains. I personally think it's very, very, very important to know what you're taking. And Gabi's really good at listing everything she puts into a blend. And me personally, and again, this is my personal preference, is when you start off microdosing, I always like starting people off with just the strain by itself. So they have the opportunity to connect with it energetically, physically, etc. I don't know, it's something that I feel like is really important. But as you guys can see, me and Gabi can have opposing thoughts on this, and we still love each other very deeply. So yeah, I think it's very, very important to at least know the strain that you're taking and know everything that goes in, because there have been multiple people that I've talked to and they're like, it doesn't really work for me. I just got really tired. And I'm like, okay, well, what strain were you taking? I don't know. There were capsules. Okay, well, what else was in the capsule? I don't know. And this isn't meant to judge. I just think it's very, very important to know these things so that you know what to shift if something doesn't work for you. Because as you know, Gabi mentioned penis envy. Penis envy makes me so tired. Golden teacher is just like go, 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 go. And then like the Masatapic is like a deep spiritual experience for me. So they're all very, very different. I'm trying to think. I feel like there was one more thing, Gabi, that you brought up that I wanted to
here, let me
touch
introduce
on.
really quick. This is my partner, my foraging partner, and my life partner.
Hi, Dennis.
He wanted to say hi. He's been there for me through a lot of this, most of it. And so he helps me forage the mushrooms. When I need something cut down off a tree, he climbs it. So he's been there for me when I've been tripping hard, scary stuff. I've been there for him too. Anyway, I just wanted to give him the chance. He's a microdoser as well. It helps us in our relationship too, as well. So yeah. So you can do it with your partner.
Yes.
Some things might come to light. Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks.
Thanks, Dennis. I have yet to get my husband on board completely.
He hasn't taken it yet? No?
He's taken a few, but
oh, really?
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, but you know what? He'll support me in anything that I do. So it's really nice to not get any judgment. It was really funny, kind of like the first time I brought up, I was like, hey, my sister's getting me mushrooms and I'm going to start taking mushrooms. And my husband's like, what? I'm like, don't worry about it. I'll be fully functional. I'm going to be okay. He's like, okay. And now, you know, still fully supportive, but he himself will not take it. So don't expect everyone in your household to partake, but I do recommend setting your household up to support you through the journey.
Yeah,
So that,
I'm
you
with
know, go ahead, Gabby.
Oh no, I was gonna say, like, you're gonna probably notice as you take the mushrooms that certain things you're just not gonna stand for anymore, whether it be
Yeah.
like a mess in your environment, or the fact that you haven't paid your bills in 8 years and you're very lagging, or there's chaos, or some of your friends might fall to the wayside if you're starting out, and things might really shift. I think the Mazatopec has a real knack for bringing things into the light, and that's but that strain is just really hard to pin down for me. It's a really fast growing, but at the same time, it's really, really strong in the beginning. I think they lose potency quickly.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm learning about that strain. They all have different levels of different tryptamines in them. Like they say the Chitwan from Nepal are like very visual strain, like, but I do have people that say, oh no, that's not the case for me. So they might just I felt like when I was younger, like I think some of the wild strains are a bit more visual for me, but when I was younger, I had maybe like more capacity for the visual. Now it's like it kind of can come in like the beginning and the end, or like when I'm least even expecting it. But it's good not to have too many expectations, but when you are starting this journey for yourself, you realize that we all have our own like health responsibilities, and if you're looking at mushrooms in microdosing, blue or red or both, you're probably at a point where you are ready to like take more of your own personal responsibility for your health. So if you're at that point, I'd say you're probably ready to start. And if someone is like not ready to take responsibility, may not go well for them. So it is like a very personal choice. But in that responsibility, it comes with like knowing what you're getting, trusting the people that you're working with, asking questions, asking for advice when you feel lost, coming back to your support networks and stuff. So Lucibel and I are definitely trying to create like safe spaces for people to be part of, and to get together and to talk and to ask questions, and to bring things to light, to share their stories. We have several different platforms. Just get in touch with us. Like we can bring you into the fold if you want to join our network. And that's, I think, like a psychedelic town hall, or just like a place where everyone can come and talk to each other and share with each other, and and talk about their experience with people who have been there and who do support them. Maybe if you don't feel supported with it in your home, like we are a group, mostly women, there's some men, but amazing men, but we're out there doing this thing. So come, talk to us if you want to.
Thanks, Gabby.
We have lots of questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'll cover a few and then we'll go back to it. But in regards to microdosing, Lisa asked how long. With the journeys that I take people through, I usually have them microdose consistently for 90 days, because 90 days gives, and again, 90 days is once every 3 days. They actually tend to find their own rhythm throughout those 90 days. So the once every 3 days starts off as a suggestion, and then it's really interesting to see how it evolves after that. And then I've gotten to the place where I will most likely, up until this point, I'll use the medicine until I feel, and as long as I feel called to. Right now, the way it goes is that sometimes I'll get this drive to microdose straight for like a week, and then I won't microdose for like a month. And then, or sometimes I'll microdose once and then I'll microdose the next week. Sometimes I'll microdose 3 days in a row. And then, so like I haven't felt the call to microdose probably for the last 2 or 3 weeks. Whereas I was microdosing, it was interesting. Gabi, that recent shipment of amanitas, I got this big old thing of amanitas. I was like, I'm going to microdose for a bunch of days. I hit day 10 and then my body was like, no, I'm good. I was like, okay, cool. So it's just, again, it's that invitation to connect with yourself, and you start to really be able to hone in on what your body wants and needs. And it is important to maintain your mineral intake, eating well, drinking lots and lots of water throughout the process is really important. Things like magnesium. What are some minerals that magnesium? What are some minerals that I feel drawn to? Vitamin C, I feel like I need a lot. Yeah. And then I want to touch on the mushroom voice. Gabi, do you feel connected to the mushroom voice through your work with the medicine?
Absolutely. Like pretty much everything I've learned from the mushroom has like, it sounds like crazy, I guess, but every blend I've made has been some kind of combination of, I just feel like I'm like a steward of the mushrooms and the medicine. Like I just try to stay open and like take them, and like let the message come through and just like put it into the physical world, like put things together. And I've had like so much positive feedback and like just healing success, like for myself and other people through taking that leap of faith of like listening to the mushroom. And I mean, it's like our own intuition. It's like so innately like with us. And it's not confusing to me why so many ancient religions have ties to the sacred mushroom and have like, I wanted to show you the Utatono Codex, and like, please, someone said, can I put my info in the chat? Me and Lucibel, we both will put our info in to connect. The Utatono Codex, like pictographs of people taking mushrooms and like talking to like different and getting into like these altered states and like tying the reeds of life and understanding and like falling into the well and coming back like with a greater understanding. So yeah, the mushroom voice is very real for me when I take the blue or the red, even with the polypores. I mean, I'm telling you, the mushrooms sent me to Alaska. The water is clean here. There hasn't been a day that I haven't had mushrooms with me for so many years now. I mean, I had like such severe depression for so long and I was so blocked, like I was just so blocked and I went down so many times and the mushrooms just like kept me like alive. They kept me so the mushroom voice like told me I had a chance to go back to Mexico and to live and to work in an ibogaine clinic, and it was a great opportunity. It would have been like one of the best practitioners probably on planet Earth, amazing guy, but the mushrooms were like, no. It was like a strong connection with the north. I was in Vermont at that time harvesting polypores, and not only did I get to spend time with someone who was like at the end of their life, two people actually, but I got to get a deeper connection with the polypores, which I use a lot in my medicinal mushroom medicines. And there's a long history of shamanism with just the polypores. I mean, you don't even have to get into an altered state of consciousness to be affected by mushrooms. Look at popular culture right now. We need mushrooms more than ever. Mushrooms clean up. They clean up the environment. They clean up our bodies. They clean up our minds. Now they're so popular. I mean, like in fashion and like, they're just everywhere. Like I heard like Starbucks has a mushroom cup now. And like, I always have like little mushroom things. And like the girls, I see like the waitress girls, their little mushroom earrings now. And like mushrooms are in our face. They are talking to us. They're like, come on, guys, let's do this. Let's, Amanita Dreamer came to light like in the past few years. And it's a small world with these mushrooms too. I mean, we know Lucibel just, connected with Amanita Dreamer, and we connected with other people, and Ayana and Tom Lane and all these people we're all coming together because the mushrooms teach us how to work together too. They teach us that we have power in coming together, to putting aside our differences, to appreciating each other's uniqueness. I mean, to me, all of that is mushroom voice. The mushrooms do it. Like, they're underground making networks. And they're fruiting despite all odds. They're coming out and they can't be contained. And they're going to try to synthesize and patent and stuff, but I'm not afraid.
There's an energy that it has, and it might not be so much. Well, it's funny, in my microdosing group, it's so cool to see the way people start to talk in regards to the mushroom. The mushroom told me that, the mushroom told me this, the mushroom said this, because it's like the mushrooms kind of clear out the debris and allow the really clear guidance to come through. So it's not like there's like a little mushroom communicating with you, but it's almost like it just frees up the space for really clear guidance to come through. But it's interesting because you'll start using words like the mushrooms told me. And I think that it's so important for us to just talk like that freely, because it's true. And I think that people really need to understand and be exposed to that, because the mushrooms hold a wisdom and they allow our own wisdom to come through, which is really, really special. And through the process, we can kind of go into, we'll free it up for questions pretty soon here. But I think it's really, really important to go through like an integration process when you go through like a microdosing journey, of really sitting down and connecting with the information that comes through. So when you do say the mushrooms told me this, well, what is it saying? What is it communicating? What is it calling for? How does it fit within your life? Because then if you don't really sit with it and really find a space for it in your life, it could just be like a cool message that came through. It came in and left, So really making room for how to make a home for the information that comes through during this journey, and really being open to it and really being willing to digest the meaning of it, even if it's uncomfortable. Again, even if it's showing you how you're part of the problem, really being willing to sit with it. And so that can come in forms of like some sort of self-preparation, any sort of protocol that you set up for yourself during the process. I see Kyra put a message up here, and she mentioned sitting at her altar. I know that the message says a lot more, and we'll get to that, but just the mere sitting at your altar and really connecting with the medicine. She talks about muscle testing, and just having some sort of process that you take yourself through to really hone in on the information that comes through. Gabi, do you have anything to add to that?
I want to talk to, let's see here, microdosing. Lisa M wanted to know, microdosing is a short-term healing strategy, right? Not something to take for the rest of your life. So I think like healing is a process that we are continually going through. Like they say that the brain stops developing at age 25. I don't think that's correct. I think we have the opportunity to heal and change until, the day we leave this earth, and probably much longer than that. But I've been taking mushrooms for 25 years almost, more consistently in the past like 20 years, and very, very consistently microdosing in the past 15 years. I don't plan to ever stop taking them. I feel like I keep learning. I haven't like lost my mind yet. I have at times, but not because of the mushrooms. Maybe because of the information coming through was a lot. And like Lucibel said, it's really important to like give yourself time to like process things, because we've all been through a lot. It's just the human experience. But I don't see myself stop taking mushrooms, but there are definitely times that I stop taking them consistently. Like I haven't taken any in a few days, but before that, I did take some Amanita in the past few days. But yeah, like the blue, I'll go through like stints of it. I'm like, I'll take it for a week and then I'm like, something will happen and I'm like, I just don't want that level of sensitivity right now. Like I need to like get through something, and then like I'll be like, I'm feeling creative and I want to reconnect with myself in this way, and then I'll just like take a microdose. Like I said, I'll do like journeys several times a year, but in a very like controlled setting that's like safe and set up and premeditated. With the microdosing, I mean, there's been times when I've not taken it for like a month or so, but I have depressive tendencies. Like I tend to get down. So for me, like I don't need to take SSRIs or any pharmaceuticals. I don't really ever get sick. If I do have something going on, like I usually take mushrooms. Like that's what I do. So, and that kind of goes back to this question about healing yourself emotionally and spiritually. I notice that like when I'm emotionally ungrounded or spiritually ungrounded, like I will hurt myself more easily, or I will like get more, my immune system will be weakened. So like I take some other things like to heal myself, like herbs and stuff, depending on what's going on. But a lot of the time I use like mushrooms and some of the cannabis oils like in the honeys, but I use a lot of mushrooms for healing. There's a lot of medicinal mushrooms out there. And then
Hey,
there's
Gabi,
about,
let's go.
yeah.
Let's take one question at a time. So we've hit most of them until Jean. I'll
Yeah.
take Jean's, and then you can take the next one and the next one. You guys can keep posting the questions here, or we'll open it up in comments for comments also. Jean asked, what if someone is already on antidepressants such as SSRIs, SNRIs, etc.? Well, you have to understand that we are not doctors and we are not giving medical advice. So that is something that you might want to talk. So if you're getting SSRIs and they're getting prescribed either by a psychiatrist, doctor, or clinician, it's most likely very, very important to ask them. Depending on the combination too. So I know some people take a combinations of SSRIs, SNRIs. I know of people who have taken them. For some of them it works. For some of them it doesn't. For some of them they have to take way more. So, but again, if you're getting prescribed SSRIs, then hopefully you're getting monitored and maybe even receiving therapy to accompany them. So it would be really important to ask whomever is prescribing them, especially if they can observe you throughout the process or give you help as well.
Yeah. Can I add to that in that
obviously
you might run up against a problem that your practitioner doesn't know about mushrooms. So hopefully you find some people to work with that can be open and understanding, because there's a lot of research coming out about them right now. And if they don't know about them, maybe it's time for them to learn, and maybe you'll be a catalyst. What Lucibel said is right on. Like, we're not doctors. This is your life, your thing. I've taken both, but if I'm going to stay on SSRIs, I'm probably not going to, if I want to get off of them, like I would have likened it. And look, you got to pick what you do, like yourself. I'm not trying to tell anyone what to do, but like, I would say if your plan is to get off them, if that's what you want is to get off of them, then mushrooms are going to be like a great, like, door out of that. To just like take a lot of stuff sometimes is like, it's a lot. So, because mushrooms are very effective. The thing about them is they work right away. You get the result right away. So anyway, that's my 2 cents, and
also there's studies, and again, we are not doctors. We are not giving out medical advice. There are some studies that are starting to come out saying that SSRIs have been prescribed incorrectly for the last 40 years. So that's some research that I'm really interested in following. Gabi, do you want to take Kyra's question about the swallowing versus under the tongue?
So you can take mushrooms under the tongue. That's like the sublingual. Tom Lane talks a lot about that because it's kind of like an ancient practice. Obviously, there's a limited amount of substance that you can get underneath your tongue at a time. If I'm eating like a dried mushroom, like I will like chew it up and like leave it in my mouth for a while to let it absorb into my palate, because like your brain is right here and it has a strong connection to your mouth and your tongue and your palate. So there's a lot of like receptors to take in the tryptamines in your mouth. If you're doing honey, you can definitely like just try to like let it melt away in your mouth, especially if you have like stomach-ish sensitivity to blue mushrooms. Red mushrooms are very healing on the gut. Like I haven't heard of them upsetting the gut. I've heard them more of like helping with allergies and gut problems, but some people are really sensitive to the blue mushroom on the gut. So I've recommended to them to kind of switch over to honey, especially the extracts, which if we can get into that if you contact me privately, but absorbing through the palate is a way to bypass the digestive system. And if you're just microdosing, you could probably get enough in through the mouth.
I was just listening to Acacia Lewis yesterday, and she was talking about and these are for bigger trips, but she was talking about how she takes the mushrooms and doses them in honey and then chews them but never swallows. She just allows them to melt in her mouth. And apparently it hits harder and faster that way, and they will just dissolve if you just chew and let them dissolve. I don't know. I thought that was really, really cool. Okay. So Laurel asks, do you suggest taking Amanita by itself or mixed with another, she says microcode of a different blended pill? Can I actually add something? I've been microdosing on Amanita by itself, but Gabi, I'm thinking that the Amanita and lion's mane was a really good blend. There was something really yummy about it. I think after I finish this supply that you got me, I'm going to order some of that lion's mane and Amanita and see if it's just in my head or not. But is there anything else you would combine it with?
I was doing a lot of research bioassaying with just taking Amanita and just taking the blue, but I am kind of a rebel and I had some feedback of people taking both at the same time. Also, I've heard of a microdose called the Holy Trinity, where it's lion's mane, Amanita, and sacred blue mushroom, which I haven't made yet, but I have taken the Amanita and the yak specifically together by recommendation of a friend, actually. And it was amazing, like, but it's different. So this, this is how I recommend doing it. Take some blue, give yourself a little time, take some red. And then if you're feeling called to try it, but try it a little bit, like 1 and 1, like, you don't want to like go super overboard because you don't know how you're going to react. But I had a great result with mixing them in with just 1 and 1. And I mixed the yak with the Amanita. It was great. So, and then there's people that say, no, you have to take this and that. Apparently the neurology of it is that the blue is growing your neurons, and that peaks even after the feeling of the mushrooms is gone. It peaks between 24 and 48 hours. So if you want to get the most out of microdosing the blue, before you microdose the red, you would allow 48 hours to pass and then microdose the red. In reverse, you could take the red at night and then microdose the blue the next morning. So that would be for like keeping them separate. Lucibel, I know, is like doing a lot of work with like just the blue and then like just the red for like weeks, we're talking about at a time. So I am like not orthodox with it. Like I'll take blue. I like to take blue during the day and then a tincture or a honey of Amanita at night, like,
Mhm.
or, you know, I just go with what I feel. Some days I'll
Mhm.
take nothing. Some days I'll take just Amanita. Some days I'll take just blue. And then once in a while I will mix them. So that's where I'm
Mhm.
at with it.
So we have time for questions now. Lisa, why don't you ask us the questions that you have, since your family's, when are you done? Go ahead and unmute yourself. And then really quickly, what we'll do is at the bottom of your screen, depending on what you're on, if you're a laptop, you should have something called reactions. There's a raise hand button. On phones, I think it's under chat reactions or more. There is a raise hand button. So go ahead and if you guys have any questions, start hitting that raise hand button and then we'll start calling on you. Go ahead, Lisa.
I think you answered most of my questions. I guess I just wanted to make one comment. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for your information and your time and knowledge. It's been really wonderful. And I love that, Lucibel, that you met Amanita Dreamer, because that's who I connected, not personally, but connected with Amanita. But I can imagine how important it is to really, if you're creating all these new neurons, I mean, that's really being open to new information, how it's really important to not only be taking the medicine, but paying attention to your thoughts and your feelings during that time. Yeah.
And also what comes in, like as soon as I started microdosing, I stopped watching TV, like just no TV, no movies, nothing. I just felt like it was so important to be selecting what I wanted to come in very purposefully.
Yes, yes. And so if you're microdosing 3 days in a row, do you, for instance, and I maybe you don't set out for a specific microdosing time frame? Is it, do you set out, do you say, or is it you just kind of feel one day at a time?
So what I mentioned earlier is my suggestion to microdosing is microdosing once every 3 days.
Oh, that's
See how that fits. Once every 3 days for 90 days, or I normally do 9 weeks, 90 days, whatever works best for you. And then just really start, you'll feel it. You'll start feeling a tug to microdose or a calm settling. No, I'm good. It's a very, very specific feeling, and it's an invitation to really connect with yourself. Should I microdose or not today?
Yeah.
I will add to that if you're going through something, like say you're like quitting an addiction or you have depression, you might want to like do more than that for a time because you're like treating something. So if you're just curious, you know, a protocol might work like that. But if someone is like sick and needs support really more intensive, then but that's my personal thing. So, you know, you have to feel where it's an intuitive journey.
Yes, that's what I'm hearing. And
it's so, I'm sorry, I'm going to add to that. It's so important to listen to yourself. In this journey, it could easily turn into, I'm just going to keep turning to people who know. I'm just going to keep trying to learn from people. I'm going to keep taking courses. I'm going to keep doing this and this and this. And I think that it's very, very important to ask yourself, am I connecting with myself as deeply as I should be or can? And really take time to really connect with yourself. What do I want? What do I need? You know, and really nourish yourself and really connect with you.